Welcome to Kids Recall. In today's video, we'll be going through the 2009 animated family movie, Ice Age, Dawn of the Dinosaurs. It's time to recall. Let's get started. Turn on subtitles and there's spoilers ahead. The movie starts and we see Scrat the squirrel once again after that beloved acorn. But this time he moves across someone who is also after the acorn, a beautiful female squirrel, for whom Scrat develops an instant crush. But old habits and dreams die hard, and despite the female's charms, Scrat isn't able to give up the acorn and take it from her. When she starts crying, though, he reluctantly hands her the acorn back, but still can't let go of it. Somehow he ends up pushing her over the cliff and dives in after her, and we see them falling while holding on to the acorn. We then shift to our main gang, Manny and Ellie. After the events of the last movie, they're now together and expecting their first baby. Manny is in the throes of parental excitement and panic and gets too keyed up at the slightest of things, such as gathering everyone that the baby is coming, although the baby is only just given a kick. But all this in his agitation to ensure a safe and productive environment for his partner and their expected baby is due to his own parents being killed by hunters, and as a result, he didn't have an ideal childhood. We then meet up with Diego, who is stalking a gazelle, but as he gives chase, the gazelle is able to outrun him. Diego realizes that his hunting skills are not what they once were, and maybe that's because he's grown too lax. As a surprise, Manny takes Ellie to a playground that he's built for their baby. He says that it's especially for the little one and that he's taken great care to make it a sweet and charming place. Diego passes by and Ellie urges Manny to go talk to him because he looks a little downcast. Manny says that guys don't talk about such stuff but simply punch each other in a manly way, but Ellie insists and he obliges. When Manny comes up to Diego and asks him what's up, Diego tells him that he's thinking of leaving the herd. While he's happy for Manny and Ellie, the domestic life isn't for him, and he wants to find some adventure. This rubs Manny the wrong way, and he thinks that Diego isn't interested in meeting his kid. Manny tells Diego to leave and walks away. Sid comes along and tries to resolve the situation and convince Diego to stay. He says that they're a family and this is an exciting time for them. But Diego says that it is, but it's Manny and Ellie's family. Diego leaves, saying goodbye to Sid. This turn of events makes Sid realize that everyone has their own thing going for them, and that he'd be left alone. Sid goes along an icy path, trying to give himself a pep talk. He decides that he'll get himself a family of his own. Accidentally, he steps onto a weak patch of ice and falls down into an icy cave. There he finds 3 eggs, and presuming them to be abandoned like him, he decides to take them for his own. With great difficulty, he manages to get the eggs and himself out of there, following a funny sequence of Sid trying to manage the eggs, which are too big for him to handle. But soon things get out of control and one egg falls off the cliff. The egg is saved by Ellie and Sid introduces Manny and Ellie to the eggs. Manny scolds Sid for taking someone else's eggs and tells him that he's not ready to be a parent yet. But someday soon, when he finds someone, hurt by Manny's words, Sid agrees to return the eggs and leaves. On his way, it starts to drizzle, and Sid takes shelter under a ledge to keep the eggs dry. Just then, a ray of sunlight hits the eggs in such a way that the silhouettes of the babies are seen inside. This melts Sid's heart, and he embraces the eggs. The next morning, Sid wakes up and gets surprised to see that there are 3 baby T-Rexes that have hatched from the eggs. Initially, Sid is worried, but the babies call him Mommy, and that decides that. The babies and Sid have a fun day full of games, baths, and naps. Sid tries to get them milk when they start crying but fails. Meanwhile, we cut to see Scrat and the female squirrel still fighting over their acorn, going back and forth between getting a hold of it. They fall into a puddle of something that makes them rise up in bubbles. The dinosaur babies and Sid walk past the playground Manny has built for his kid, and the babies beg to be let in. Sid obliges, but this makes all the other kids think that the playground is open to everyone, and they crowd in. But the behavior of the dinosaurs proves too rambunctious for everyone, and it scares them. Although not before the playground has been completely destroyed. Manny and Ellie arrive, and Manny is extremely sad to see the destruction. He turns on Sid and starts yelling at him about the babies and why he didn't return them. As Sid defends himself, there is a loud earthquake. Everyone gets scared, and it turns out that the earthquake is the footsteps of a mama dinosaur who's come to find her kids. Sid tries to stand up to her, but the dinosaur grabs her kids along with Sid and walks away. On their way, they cross Diego, who notices that Sid is in the dinosaur's jaws. Manny, Ellie, Crash, and Eddie all follow in the dinosaur's footsteps in order to rescue Sid. They come up to the entrance of an ice cave, and Manny tells Ellie to return because it could be dangerous, but Ellie refuses to leave, and they all make their descent. They discover that the icy cave leads to a vast subterranean jungle populated by dinosaurs thought to be extinct. As they watch in fascination, an angry dinosaur threatens them despite Diego's efforts to fend it off. Then they're saved from a further crowd of angry reptiles by a deranged, quick-witted, one-eyed weasel named Buck. They tell him that they're there to rescue their friend, and he tells them he saw him earlier, after being carried away by a T-Rex, and tells them they're headed to Lava Falls. He also tells them to turn back because there's no way Sid would be alive. He tells them that if somehow Sid escaped the Mama T-Rex, he probably would have been caught by the beast, the dinosaur that took his eye. They ignore Buck's warnings and continue making their way further into the jungle. We cut to more of Scrat and the female, and he's trying his best in order to get the acorn. Manny and Diego are attacked by a carnivorous plant, and Ellie asks Buck for help. After some heroics, Buck manages to save them, and Ellie asks if he'll help them find Sid. He agrees, but said that they must follow 3 rules. Always listen to him, stay in the middle of the trail, and he who has the gas will travel at the back. Meanwhile, the T-Rex arrives at their destination and after setting the kids down, tries to attack Sid. But the 3 kids defend him, and she's forced to leave him alive but tied up. The rest of the gang make their way through the jungle and enter a place called the Chasm of Death. The chasm can be crossed by traveling in a rib cage of a dinosaur, but they have to be careful not to inhale the green gas. Buck takes Ellie first, and they're able to cross safely. Next, Buck elevates the rib cage for the rest of the gang, and they get on it, but they get stuck and are unable to hold their breaths for much longer. The toxic fumes make their voices high, and they start laughing maniacally. Ellie is worried and asks Buck if the gas is dangerous, and he says they can die from it. He goes to rescue them, but accidentally inhales the gas himself as well. They all start laughing uncontrollably, and Ellie wonders what they would have done without her as she lowers the cage and gets them all out. We also see that Scrat and the other squirrel are also just behind them. We then go back to Sid and see him struggling to make the kids eat vegetarian food like fruits and vegetables. The Mama T-Rex brings them meat, and while Sid tries to stop them, they devour it, making the mother victorious over Sid. The mother hears a roar in the distance and urges her kids to leave the place. As they move away, we see a claw larger than the T-Rex step over her claw print. And as night falls, Buck suggests they set up camp. As they sit around the fire, he tells them the tale of how he lost his eye. The beast, or as he likes to call it, Rudy, had scratched out his eye and then swallowed him, but Buck had managed to climb out of the creature's throat and hung on to the uvula and then used it to launch himself out of the mouth. It also broke the creature's tooth, and that is what Buck uses as his dagger. We also see that Sid is being accepted by the Mama T-Rex as she settles him in with the kids that night as they sleep. The camera pans away and we see that Rudy is on their tail. In the meantime, Scrat continues his battle of getting his acorn back from the female, resulting in a chase in the Chasm of Death and a tango dance battle. As the female squirrel tries to fly away with Scrat's acorn, Scrat manages to grab her tail and hang from a cliff with lava at the bottom. Scrat later uses a fainted squirrel to save each other and the acorn from the lava. The two fall in love with each other and share a kiss, and the next morning Buck and the gang come across some food remains, and Buck deduces what could have happened to Sid. They then come across the plates of wow and begin to cross it. Meanwhile, while playing with the kids, Sid falls behind and is attacked by the vicious Rudy. In trying to escape the creature, Sid falls into the lava, floating on a piece of rock. Back with the others, Ellie is separated from the group, and just then they hear Rudy's roar along with Sid's screams. Buck decides that he'll go and rescue Sid along with Crash and Eddie, while Diego and Manny go to Ellie as she's gone into labor. A couple of smaller dinosaurs surround Ellie and Diego, and Manny do their best to keep them at bay. By the time Manny climbs the ledge where Ellie is, their baby has been born. Manny suggests they name her Ellie, but she says they should call her Peaches, the name Manny had chosen earlier. During this, Buck has gotten hold of a pterodactyl and manages to save Sid just as he falls off a lava waterfall. Sid sees his kids in the distance and is sad that he never got to say goodbye. They all arrive at where Ellie is, and Sid's very happy to meet Peaches. Buck then leads them all back to the entrance of the cave, but before they can pass, Rudy ambushes them for a final showdown. Buck distracts the huge creature and tells them to make a run for it. Manny gets Ellie and Peaches to safety while he, Sid, and Diego go on to help Buck. Together, they're able to tie some vines around the creature's legs and mouth, making Rudy trip and fall. Before they can get away, though, Sid falls behind just as Rudy gets up and breaks out of his binds. Rudy is about to eat Sid when he's attacked by the mama T-Rex. Sid cheers as she pushes Rudy into a deep chasm, then to his apparent demise. The dinosaur kids say goodbye to Sid and follow their mother, giving Sid a chance to see them before he leaves. Buck watches the place where Rudy fell and wonders what he will do now. Ellie and the others ask him to join them above, and he reluctantly agrees. Just as they cross the bridge made up of dinosaur bones, Buck hears a roar which sounds like Rudy. Hearing that, everybody hurries along, but Buck will stay behind. Buck tells Diego that he needs to go back because that's where he belongs, and Diego says he understands. Reanimated and excited to pursue the beast again, Buck hollers as he swings along with the vines and cuts the ties that hold up the bridge, severing the link to both worlds once and for all. Everyone else makes it back safely, and Manny tries to convince Diego to stay. Diego gives him a friendly punch, and the two of them make up. Ellie welcomes Peaches to the Ice Age as she plays in the snow. We then cut to the underground jungle and see that Buck has mastered Rudy and is now riding on top of him. Then the camera cuts to Scrat and his girlfriend as they set up their new house. Scrat seems weary with domestic life as he spots his beloved acorn and sneaks away to get it. His girlfriend catches him and they begin their scuffle over the nut. They're blasted off when she sticks it into the ground above lava, and Scrat manages to get to the surface with the acorn while the female squirrel is left behind. His celebratory dance is cut short when he drops the acorn back down and starts screaming frustration over having lost his precious acorn as usual. And this is where the movie ends. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new movie recaps.